Lula and Donald Trump
did not greet each other.
during the official photo. At the time of the official summit photo, Lula walked past Donald Trump, greeted other leaders, but did not get close to the American president.
When he was ignored by Donald Trump at the G7 meeting in France, the Brazilian president showed great dissatisfaction with the situation. His expectation was to have a direct conversation to try to prevent Brazilian factions from being classified as narco-terrorists, avoiding possible sanctions or even military actions against trafficking structures in Brazil. The frustration was so great that the president took out his irritation on an aide for making him arrive too early at the G7 meeting, exposing the tense atmosphere within his own delegation.
The thinnest and most delicate one did it. That's how Politas claimed it.
They voted and said, where did he run twice?
These are sausages, up to titans. They didn't comply. No, I'm not. No, I'm here.
The Chamber of Deputies.
This episode showed the difficulty of the Brazilian government in taking a stand before world leaders during a moment of international pressure. The lack of dialogue with Trump represented a hard blow to the Brazilian president's strategy. He had been trying to discredit the initiatives of the United States and the countries that make up the Shield of the Americas, but ended up completely isolated. The lack of initiative to support the fight against crime reinforced the perception that Brazil is moving in the opposite direction of continental strategies to combat criminal factions, while narco-terrorism advances within the country. But what could Donald Trump be preparing for the PCC and the Red Command? Welcome to life in the barracks.
He made Brazil go through a huge embarrassment in front of the whole world. It's no wonder he's being completely ignored by the leaders of this event, including Donald Trump himself. Lula? He sat at the same table as Donald Trump and asked for money for the Global South. And he had the nerve to say that the protectionism of the United States, American protectionism, European protectionism, is the root of all the planet's economic problems.
Amid this scenario of geopolitical turmoil in the fight against continental violence, the Brazilian president attacked the civil and federal police, stating that people are afraid to go to police stations because they don't know what kind of officers they will encounter.
I will actually send the signal to whoever has the stolen phone to return it, because Bolsonaro, when it comes to police, the doubt is that I don't want to return it at the police station. I want to return it at the post office. What happens at the police station? People are even afraid.
I'm scared because I don't know what kind of police chief or officer I'll encounter.
Brazilian police, I hope you can listen to what I say now, no matter your political views. This statement shows a serious lack of judgment and a grave weakening of institutions. Regardless of political side, Lula, Bolsonaro, your party or mine, the head of state must strengthen institutional credibility and never undermine or cast doubt on them before society. Imagine the president advising citizens to avoid the judiciary because the judge they encounter is uncertain. People avoid public hospitals and schools because they don't know which doctor or teacher they'll get. See the problem? Democratic institutions depend on trust. When the highest political authority in the country suggests distrust precisely toward the body responsible for investigating crimes, the message sent to society is extremely bad. Whoever buys a stolen cell phone, my friend, is a potential receiver of stolen goods. Of course, someone who acted in good faith may not have committed any crime, but the one who makes that assessment is the police chief, the judicial police, the same institution he suggests avoiding. The potential receiver. Of course, the president can criticize institutions, suggest improvements, and point out flaws. That's also part of his role. But never weaken the population's trust in the very institutions that uphold the democratic rule of law. When people distrust institutions, my friend, it's society, not the police, that suffers.
The criminals respond with gunfire and burning barricades. From their homes, residents watch all the commotion anxiously.
This statement sparked outrage among the police forces, who felt unfairly blamed for the rise in crime in the country. In these 4 years of the current administration, the Palacio do Planalto has not presented a coordinated national initiative to integrate the security forces with the judiciary, the Federal Revenue Service, and other agencies. On the contrary, there were budget cuts in defense, even forcing the army to cancel operations to combat crime at the borders. The result is a national crime-fighting policy marked by failures and lacking effectiveness. The police continue to face highly armed factions, and even so, they do not have adequate support from the Brazilian state. This lack of national coordination undermines the government's credibility and increases the population's sense of insecurity, as they see the state losing ground to criminal organizations.
Criminals from other communities started hijacking buses to set up barricades in different parts of the city and divert the police's attention. We're done.
Get the key, Terrero. Let's go. The attempt to pressure Trump was so incoherent that the Brazilian president even told other G7 leaders that he was not left-wing, denying his own political origins in an effort to gain geopolitical support.
Oh, and in France, they also tried to pressure him. Thank you. Incoherent. Thank you. The Brazilian president told G7 leaders that he was not left-wing, denying his own political origins in an effort to gain geopolitical support. The attempt to pressure was incoherent, as he told others he was not left-wing, denying his political background to try to gain support.
This stance was seen as weakness and opportunism, reinforcing both internal and external criticism. The lack of firmness in his political stance only increased diplomatic isolation, making his participation in the G7 an almost embarrassing situation. Meanwhile, the Shield of the Americas advances, bombing criminal structures and vessels. Every step Brazil takes in the opposite direction of the United States is interpreted as a reason to intensify operations against the PCC and the Red Command. Fihamwadel. International cooperation has been growing even stronger in the region, showing that the fight against the factions cannot wait for ideological decisions. Given that the South American people have suffered for decades at the hands of violent narco-terrorists. The fact that Trump ignored the Brazilian president may indicate that a coordinated action is already being discussed behind the scenes. There are signs that the United States is coordinating measures with Brazilian police forces without the knowledge of the Planalto Palace. This possibility reinforces the idea that the fight against criminal groups will be carried out with or without the explicit support of the current president of Brazil. In addition, the Southern Command has increased its presence in the region, expanding joint exercises and operations. A clear example was the trip by Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa to the United States Department of War to meet with the Secretary of War, Peter Hegseth, to sign an agreement that will allow U.S. forces to operate on Ecuadorian soil. This move shows that neighboring countries are increasingly aligning themselves with Washington to confront narco-terrorism. Instead of supporting Brazilian police forces and strengthening the Continental Coalition in confronting regional criminal groups, the Brazilian president diverges from the stance of other Latin American leaders. This lack of alignment with joint initiatives weakens the national position and gives the impression that the government is not listening to the urgent demands of those who live daily under the threat of organized crime. FBI agents are already officially operating in Brazil in cooperation with the federal police, while CIA agents operate discreetly. Clicking. Follow Vida No Quartel and get the Philips electric toothbrush. Leave a like, subscribe, and watch one of the videos that's appearing on your screen. Forward fighters, see you next time.